Good morning, everybody. How you doing? Okay, we're doing chapter 5, photosynthesis. Hopefully we'll have some folks joining us. I'm good, thank you. Glad to hear you're all right. Okay, so it is just about 9 o'clock now. I'll be adding folks as they come in. But for now, let's go ahead and get started. Chapter 5, photosynthesis. Okay, so we're taking a little bit of a jump here from regular internal chemistry found in all cells to cells that do photosynthesis, basically plants. There's some other organisms that do photosynthesis, but now we're moving on to other things besides what's happening in our cells. Okay, so what is photosynthesis about? It's really about making food. Photo means light, synthesis means to create or put together. So you're putting together food using light. Ultimately, the energy to power all organisms comes from the sun. All is a pretty big statement. There are some that live at the bottom of the mid-Atlantic, at a place called the Mid-Atlantic Trench, who don't live off the sun. That's a small exception. Almost everything else, including us, live indirectly off the sun because we eat organisms that either eat photosynthesizers or we eat the photosynthesizers themselves. So we do get powered by the sun. Plants, algae, and some bacteria have a special chemical called chlorophyll. That's the green pigment found in plants. The sunlight gets converted into ATP. So you might be thinking, isn't that great? Isn't that the end of the story? No, if you remember from the previous chapter on respiration, is that you can't store ATP, so you have to put it in a form that can be stored, and that's food. The ATP is then used to make covalent bond energy in food molecules. That just means the energy in the ATP gets moved into the energy in the food molecule so that either the plant can make it, can use it later, or that we can use it for food and energy. In eukaryotic organisms like plants, these reactions take place in chloroplasts. There are some photosynthetic bacteria. They don't have chloroplasts because remember, they don't have any organelles at all. Okay, so this is an image directly from your text. It shows you how photosynthesis works. So coming into the plant is water from rain and carbon dioxide, which is just from the air, basically what we breathe out. What the plant makes is sugar, its main product, with oxygen being a waste. All right, so this shows you what's happening when we look at an actual leaf, then we look at an actual cell. The little green things are the chloroplasts, the vacuoles where water is stored. And then if you look in the cells, under the microscope, you can see these little green things, the chloroplasts, where photosynthesis happens. Okay, so these are some images directly from your text that shows you, if you take a cross section of a leaf, this is what it looks like. You have the upper skin or epidermis, the lower skin or epidermis. Stomata are little holes that allow CO2 in and oxygen out. That's the opposite of us. Remember, photosynthesis and respiration are opposites. Then we were looking at an individual cell from up above. We see that there's the nucleus and these other organelles, and there's that water vacuole. One of the things that they have that we don't is a chloroplast. So if we look inside the chloroplast, it looks kind of like a pill. And inside this green pill are these stacks that which look like kind of like red blood cells or green pancakes. A stack is called a granum. Several of those are called grana, plural. Pluralization in biology is a little different than most other things. In English, we use s to pluralize. In Latin, they usually don't. So granum, grana, stroma is the liquid between these stacks, and the thylakoids are the individual pancakes or photosynthetic objects. Okay, this is what I want you to know from this slide is the reaction for photosynthesis. Now, I did give you the reaction for cellular respiration. And if you remember, all you got to do to get respiration compared to this is just rearrange the order. If you remember, it was sugar and oxygen turning into water and carbon dioxide. So really photosynthesis is just the opposite. The main difference being the outcome of all this is ATP, and here you have to have light energy as a power source. But otherwise, the chemical reactions are exactly the same, but in reverse. Okay, this is an image from your text, not quite as interesting as the last one, but this is what you will find in there. The equation for photosynthesis. All right, what are some of the reactions that happen during photosynthesis? Well, when light hits the chloroplast, electrons become excited. You guys remember from previous chapter, excited electrons or high energy electrons were used to power the ATP mill. So that's exactly what they do here. These excited electrons run through something very similar to the ETS. It is a form of ETS, and they make ATP, but you can't stop there. Water is split into hydrogen and oxygen and released as waste. Now, this is what's key. The reason why plants need so much water is that they're actually taking the water that you give them and destroying it. What they're trying to get a hold of is the hydrogen. The oxygen portion of water is a waste, so they release it. Now, where's this hydrogen going? It's going right into the food. It is the hydrogen source in the C6H12O6 that we saw in glucose. Where it gets those H's is right here from the water that it's split. Okay, now the power that converts carbon dioxide and water into sugar is ATP. And remember, that was powered by the sun. So this ATP power source converts this low energy molecule, in addition to the hydrogens that got split out of the water, into sugar, which contains a lot of energy. So there it is, light energy as a kind of a condition, plus carbon dioxide plus water turns into sugar and oxygen. Notice, again, as we saw before, this one doesn't have the 6's in front of it, in front of the individual ones, but it's still the main equation, even if it's not balanced. Okay, now, one of the things I'm going to tell you is there's very likely going to be this figure on the test for this chapter. And here's another thing that'll really help you. So please listen to what I'm saying and take note. Probably about 3/4 of all the review questions from this chapter, if you look at this picture, you'll get the answer. Okay? Seriously. Listen to my words, take it seriously. If you use this picture, you'll get 3/4 of all the questions in the review right. So this is the one and only main essay for the chapter and is the main figure. Now, there may be another figure as extra credit. I'll show you that when we get to it. Okay, so it says the light reactions convert solar energy into chemical energy. So everything on the left side are the light reactions or light dependent reactions. And then everything on the right is light independent, or what they used to call the dark reactions. And that's really the Calvin cycle. Now, quick summary of this. We're going to go into more detail. If you remember, light and water enters. As a waste, oxygen comes out. And as a main product, sugar comes out. And then we see some similar things that were happening between the, you guys remember Krebs cycle and how it was kicking out these and taking in these. So really, it's basically just the opposite. So instead of these coming in and coming out as this, they come in as this, energized, and leave de-energized. Where's the energy that they dropped off? Here in the sugar. So let's go through it a step at a time. Okay, the light-dependent reactions. So light, usually from the sun. But remember, some plants are under artificial light. Anything you need, the only thing that plants need is a good broad spectrum of visible light. Okay? Water comes in from the roots. And remember, they're storing that in that water vacuole in their cells. So these two things come in. Now, if you remember, water's being destroyed here, split. So the oxygen part of it is right here. That's dumped. So where do these hydrogens go? Well, look, right there. That hydrogen right there, that's the hydrogen from the water that got split by the light. So the light cut the hydrogens and oxygens apart, put the oxygens together and dumped it. And believe it or not, the plants are actually going to breathe this oxygen at night when they can't photosynthesize. Because remember, plants are doing respiration at night, same way that we do, because they can't photosynthesize. All right, so the energy that was in the light and the hydrogen in the water ends up in these molecules. So some ATP is made and one of these full wheelbarrows. Now, if you remember from respiration, there was this P was not there. This P is slightly different, but it's doing basically the same job. It is a wheelbarrow, NADP, carrying hydrogens and high energy electrons, just like we saw in respiration. Okay, so let's go on to the light independent reactions. That means it doesn't have to have light, but it doesn't only occur in the dark. That's why they don't call it the dark reactions anymore. It can occur and does occur during the day. Okay, so all the energy that was brought in is used to take carbon dioxide. If you guys remember the black circles from respiration, same here. Carbon dioxide comes into this cycle, and the details are unimportant at this level. But then you combine it together with the hydrogens. You guys remember the hydrogens right there? So if we bring in carbon dioxide and the hydrogen from the previous step, you put it all together with energy, you get sugar. And the waste oxygen was over here, but the only thing that's coming out of the Calvin cycle besides the sugar are these discharged batteries and empty wheelbarrows. So it's going to go back to the light reactions to pick up hydrogens from water and energy from the sun. So this is the overall figure. I've gone through it now. The light reactions require light and water. Waste is oxygen. Internal product is ATP carrying energy and NADPH carrying energy and hydrogen going to the Calvin cycle to make sugar, which carries energy. These empty wheelbarrows and discharged batteries recycle back, and carbon dioxide comes in as one of the main things. So carbon dioxide and hydrogen making sugar. Use this to help you. All right, let's look at a chloroplast. Inside each chloroplast are thylakoids. I showed you this before, are pancake-like green membranous structures in which photosynthesis takes place. Each of these little green things. A stack of these thylakoids is called a granum. That's one, or grana plural. The stroma is the liquid part. This is just a review over the image that I showed you earlier. That was directly from your book. This particular one is not from your book, but it's similar enough. Okay, so the light-dependent reaction. So we're going to go through in note what I showed you in the image. The light-dependent reactions require light and occur in the thylakoids. Water and sunlight come in on the left side, the light reaction portion, into the thylakoids in order to start the process. Remember, sunlight's the power, and H2O is the hydrogen source. Individual units of light that can be captured are called photons. So you need to know that when we look at some of these reactions. ATP and NADPH are the main products. Remember, ATP is carrying energy, and NADPH is carrying hydrogens and energy. Oxygen is a waste, so it's dumped. So we get to breathe the oxygen, and they breathe it at night. Okay, so this is a simplified figure showing how the light reactions work. A photon, a particle of light, hits an electron, energizing it, and it goes up to this water-splitting photosystem. What does water-splitting photosystem do? It uses light to split water. But the key thing here is it slides down through this ATP mill that's very similar to ETS from previous chapter and makes ATP. Okay, so what's a little different though is instead of this electron just becoming water, it gets re-energized by another photon of light and gets shot up to the NAD producing photosystem. And so it uses this energy and the split water from before to make NADPH. Okay, now if this figure is possible to be as an extra credit question on the chapter, on the test that includes this chapter. So this is a more detailed picture. What I just showed you is kind of cartoonish. So let's take a look at it. Water. How do we split it? We use light. So the light hits this reaction center, splits the water into hydrogens and oxygens. These oxygens are going to leave. These hydrogens are going to get hooked up way over at the end here as the hydrogen. And that's the reason why you do it. So next step, the energized electron that came out of the water. See how the electron's coming out of the water? It's going to get energized by the light as well. It's going to go through the electron transport chain, just like we saw in respiration, and ATP is made. The last step really is another photon hits the electron. It's this orange flow of electrons, energizes it again. Now, that electron needing somewhere to go. Remember we said electrons, if they're going to flow, they have to have somewhere to go, and they go right in here into this full wheelbarrow. And that's how this can continue. So this is a figure showing the light reactions. It may be extra credit on an upcoming test. Okay, light independent reaction. So the making of food molecule. And by the way, if you like this picture, I took it. So there you go. FOB. The light independent reactions don't require light and occur in the stroma. So that's the liquid between the chloroplast, or between the thylakoids in the chloroplast. Carbon dioxide from the air, our waste products, and comes out of fires, etc., must enter the process here, as well as ATP and NADPH from the light reactions. NADPH is a hydrogen carrier from the light-dependent reactions. All right, many carbon dioxide molecules are combined. So when you take air and you turn it into a solid material like sugar, the expression is fixed. That means that gone from air into something solid. The hydrogen molecules from the water turned into glucose and other food molecules. The plant then uses these molecules for energy, respiration. That would be at night or in the spring when it doesn't have any leaves, or offers them as a reward to animals that might help move pollen or seeds. In addition, we put it in its own seeds to help its offspring grow. All right, the overall reaction. This is the unbalanced one again. Carbon dioxide plus water turns into sugar with oxygen as the waste. So this explains it. The equation for respiration is this. And if you can see, barring what's in parentheses, they're exactly the same, but in reverse. Okay, so that is it for today's lecture. Bella, do you have any questions today for me? Nope. Okay, well, thank you for coming, Bella, and all the rest of you guys watching this. Take your time, rewind. I hope to see you. I'm sorry I missed you on Monday. I got stuck somewhere. And I will be on campus in class this coming Monday, so please come to lab. We have a good lab. Unfortunately, there's nobody here to review for the exam too, except for Bella. So guys, look over your review questions. Remember, when you take the test, you need to choose the best answer, not the one that's most familiar. And quick reminder, 2 of these answers are right, or all of these answers are right is usually right, and none of the above is usually wrong. So use that to help you. Anyway, good luck with the test. Good luck with the Labster on photosynthesis, and I hope to see you on Monday. Have a great week and a great weekend, guys.